He then concludes his piece with an appeal to America for help. He says, quote, "On behalf of the Zimbabweans who desire to live as human beings, free from the shackles of Mugabe's tyranny, I have a favor to ask of you, America. No, it is not a request for a check or some other handout, nor is it a request to send over your 4th Infantry Division to liberate us. Our suffering does not give us a right to your wealth or to the lives of your brave soldiers. No, the favor I have to ask is very different and far simpler. America, stop apologizing for your greatness. Stand up and proudly champion the principles that have enabled you to earn your wealth and power. Capitalism and the individual's inalienable rights to life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. Condemn every form of tyranny and tell the world that the political system created by your founders is the only noble system the world has ever seen. Tell every individual across the globe, no matter if he's black, white, Asian, Arab, whatever, the only path to freedom and prosperity is through the ideas contained in your Constitution and Bill of Rights. To modify a saying from one of your great founders, George Washington, proclaim a standard to which the wise and the just can repair. To do so costs you nothing and will achieve much. You will give hope and inspiration to every individual in Zimbabwe, Iran, Hong Kong, or elsewhere who is actually fighting for his liberty. You will earn the respect of freedom-loving people the world over, the only world opinion that could ever make sense to win. And by your moral certainty, you will strike fear in the hearts of your enemies and any tyrant who dares to violate the rights of the individual. America, when you refuse to speak out against evil, and worse, when you apologize for your virtues, you discourage those who love liberty and give hope to the Mugabes of the world. But when you proudly and guiltlessly stand for the good, you help move the world toward your ideals. America, your moral voice is at once your least costly and your most powerful weapon. A lonely individual from Zimbabwe asks of you only this: won't you use that voice? Unquote. If America follows Mr. Tenet's advice, it will truly become a beacon of liberty for all the oppressed peoples of the earth, even more than it already is. Third and last, freedom and prosperity are eminently obtainable by human beings. The history of the Western world in the past 200 years shows that, as does the spread of capitalism into Asia in the last 50 to 60 years. But although human beings have hungered, fought, and died for freedom throughout the ages, they have not yet understood its nature. They have failed to understand the philosophical principles that underlie freedom and give rise to the need of it. Ayn Rand, in her great novel Atlas Shrugged, identified those underlying principles. And if you guys haven't read it, I strongly urge you to start it tonight. Because the mind is man's tool of survival, Rand argues, and because the mind does not and cannot function under coercion, individual human beings must be left free to act on their rational judgment in support of their own life. They must be protected from the initiation of force against them. It is to protect an individual's right to live by his own mind, to be guided by his survivalism in support of his own life. This is why a limited constitutional government with a Bill of Rights must be established. After thousands of years of human struggle, Ayn Rand has provided the intellectual insights validating that struggle, showing that and why freedom is an individual right, is a necessity of human survival. We need to understand this. If we are to be effective activists on behalf of global freedom, we must understand the philosophical principles that make freedom necessary and that make it possible. We must read and comprehend Atlas Shrugged. We must encourage everybody we know to do the same. We must teach Ayn Rand's principles to our children and our students. We must incorporate these ideas into our activism on behalf of global capitalism. If we do that, if we campaign as fully knowledgeable intellectual activists, then our battle for global freedom can be won. The principles and practices of individual rights will be spread around the world. And then the repression and the destitution of the communist and theocratic and other third world dictatorships will be gone. Then the individuals of those countries can be as free and as wealthy as those in the West and in the Asian tigers. Capitalism has liberated and enriched the West. It has liberated and enriched numerous Asian countries. It can and will liberate and enrich the rest of the world. Thank you. Thank you. After you read Atlas Shrugged, you can read Capitalism Unbound. I'm going to get a plug on my book. Anybody have any questions? I see a hand in the back.
Other than speaking out, I guess, expression, statism, what do you think is the most practical ways of getting a government that protects individual rights in a country like Haiti, where
Haiti?
Like a government, I mean, a country like Haiti, which is like government is so corrupt and is run by a bunch of thugs, and how do you get a government established so, you know, it's a freedom can prosper over there, and so like cooperation, free trade can occur in a country like that. How do you get that?
All right. The question is, other than speaking out on behalf of individual rights and freedom, what can anybody do to promote individual rights and freedom in various, brutal dictatorships like Haiti, for example? Well, for one thing, if you value your life, you don't try and do it in Haiti. Or in North Korea, or in the country formerly known as Burma. That's not a joke. I shouldn't make jokes like, was it Myanmar they called it? I mean, because the government is so dictatorial in places like that, they'll just kill you. So I think the one thing we can do is, living in a relatively free country, we can seek to promote individual rights and capitalism in the United States. We can certainly do that. And if the United States moves towards those principles and is freer, if the populace basically understands those principles and repudiates the Marxist, socialist principles that are prominent in the universities and educational system, you might actually see American politicians stand up, and support that. You might actually see American presidents, instead of Clinton and Obama going around the country, apologizing to all these third world dictators, and Jimmy Carter, buddy, with them, and Bush and the Republicans being basically just Me Too welfare statists. You might actually see leading American politicians stand up for individual rights and capitalism and limited government. In those countries, look, political principles are part of philosophy. And in order to have a political system of individual rights, you need to have a philosophy that supports individual rights. So the reason we've been moving towards some form of statism in the United States is because the two dominant philosophies in the United States are, one is religion and the other is socialism, and a watered down version of Marxism. You can't support freedom in either of those foundations. Religion, when it's consistent and culturally dominant, always leads to theocracy and the rule of the theologians. And collectivism and the idea that the individual must serve the state always leads to socialism. So you need a certain philosophy. I think Ayn Rand has given us that philosophy, and I urge everybody here to read Ayn Rand's books. Philosophy of reason, egoism, that you have the right to your own life, etc. In the countries you're talking about, they don't those philosophies haven't made the slightest inroads. They've never gone through an Enlightenment period, with a commitment to reason and the right of an individual. So